Hello everyone, my name is Glenn, and today, basically what this video is going to be, and I'm just going to, hang on, I'll turn up this level on this voice recorder a little bit more. There we go, not much higher than that though. What this video is going to be is, I'm actually going to just record like a real time, well, not real. What this video is going to be is basically, it's going to be a real-time recording of me drawing, just some abstract art, and I'm just going to talk over the top of it. So I've never made a video like this before because I always thought like, well, who the hell's gonna sit through like a 2 hour long video of just me drawing with talking over the top of it? What? By the way, I'm eating an egg sandwich at the same time as doing this, so if you're wondering why I'm talking a bit weird. Anyway, but like the thing is, right, whenever I draw, what I tend to do is I tend to put on like just really long videos while I'm drawing, because the short ones, you can't really put on short YouTube videos because they demand too much of your attention. And what was I saying again? Yeah, the shorter videos demand too much of your attention, and obviously you don't want to be like having to pick up the remote and change the video every 2 seconds when you're busy drawing a picture. So, because you just want to kind of get into the zone and start drawing your picture, you know. So, when other art YouTubers make videos like this, where it's just them talking over a picture for like ages and ages, like hours and hours, they tend to be the kind of videos that I look for if I'm like busy, you know what I mean? If I'm drawing or if I'm doing something else, and I just want something on in the background, because my house has loads of like ticking clocks in it. So like I just hear tick 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 if it's quiet. Actually, hang on. I think there's one in here, but I'm in the shed at the minute. But there's a ticking clock in here actually, which I'm just gonna put outside because I'm. There we go. I'm gonna put that ticking clock outside because I mean it's just annoying. So, and I think you guys will probably find it annoying as well. So, but in my house as well, there's loads of them ticking clocks all over the place. So, what I tend to do is I tend to put on YouTube videos just to break up, just so I'm not like concentrating on that tick tick tick, because it drives us crazy, honestly. Like if I ever get like, because usually you'll have like a tune in your head or something, from some music or whatever. Well, I do anyway. I've always got a tune playing in my head of some sort, something I've heard or whatever. Because of the ticking clock is like a really slow rhythm, and what happens is I end up, whatever tune I've got in my head, like even if it's a pop song or something, I end up just playing a version of that tune in my head which like syncs up to the rhythm of the ticking clock. It just happens naturally without us being able to. Like I can't not hear the tune like that in my head if there's a ticking clock, and it drives us crazy. I just can't, I can't listen to every single tune that goes on in my head at the same rhythm as a ticking clock, and I end up like tapping as well, like the rhythm kind of ends up getting into it, and I end up like tapping out triplets in between the beats of the ticking clock and stuff. Like, it's just not good. I need some sound on so I can draw. Not concentrate on that. So I'm sure anyone who's watching this has their own reason for needing some sound on in the background. And I'm happy to give you that sound right now. I'm happy to, pardon me, it's probably really disgusting listening to me eat right now. But yep, hopefully you won't mind listening to my voice droning on. I'm about 6 minutes in already. Christ, I've not even said anything. Mind, not that I'm going to say anything particularly interesting. Like, I don't know, I'm just going to ramble on, to be honest. The thing about YouTube, I've looked on my algorithm, and even on a small channel like mine, it seems like the majority of the viewers are from America. Like, they're all from the USA. Which, when I improvise these videos, when I just kind of, if I ever just record like a voiceover unscripted, I always worry in case my regional accent, because I'm from the northeast of England, and up here in the northeast of England we've got like a really specific regional accent. And I think a lot of people in England even can't even like understand what us in the northeast are actually saying when we're talking, because of the local dialect being so strong. So if you're from somewhere else in the world and you're listening to me talk, right, I mean, do you guys struggle to understand what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe answer that in the comments or something. I don't know. I'm always trying to get people to comment, because apparently if you notice that, actually, YouTubers, they're always saying like, oh, if you like this video, leave a comment. We want to know what you're thinking and stuff. I mean, I think there's some sincerity to that. I don't think it's all bullshit, but at the same time, I think the comments do help the video and like the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the reasons why they do it as well. But at the same time, it's not completely that, because I do like hearing. I mean, I do like reading comments by you people. On my last video, actually, recently, I was really happy to see Sorry, I'm just licking my plate. I'm licking all the crumbs up my plate. I've just had an egg sandwich. That's what I've just been eating, and now I'm just licking up the crumbs. What the hell was I talking about again? Oh yeah, comments, right. So, oh, I got some gas, sorry. Pardon me, oh god. Am I gonna have to edit that out, do you think? Sorry. Burping on the bloody YouTube video, that's gross, Glenn. Don't do that. Right. No, sorry. The hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, comments, right. So I'll just put this plate down. Right, I'm not eating anymore now, so I can kind of get on with it a bit more. On the last video I made, like a really cool like YouTuber whose channel I really like commented on, like left loads and loads of comments on my video, which I mean that was pretty cool. You might have heard of the channel. Well, there's two channels, but they're both run by the same two people. There's one of them called Rafi Was Here Studios, and there's another one called Rafi and Clee Adventures. And if anyone listening to this hasn't checked out their channel, then I mean I would recommend it. Like I do like those guys. I think they're really cool, you know. So it was good that, just having a sip of tea. It's good that those guys commented on my video. Actually, it was nice. I liked it. I think I don't know which one of them it was. I think it was probably Rafi. I'm not sure. But he left some nice comments and said that he had subscribed to my channel and things like that. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, so this is just going to be a live stream, and I'm not just going to ramble on about random stuff the whole time, although there probably will be a lot of rambling on about random stuff. But actually no, hang on, did I just say this was a live stream? It's not a live stream. I'm not doing it live. No, you know what I mean though, like a longer stream, unedited kind of thing, you know, that's what I mean. Like a podcast kind of, but with footage of me drawing, playing alongside it. I'm going to talk about a few different things really. I'm going to just ramble on about just mundane stuff like I just have. But I'm also wanting to actually talk about the video that you're watching here as well. You know, I'm not just going to have that playing and just talk about other things the whole time. You know, I will actually kind of talk about the actual video a little bit as well. And also, it's the day after New Year's Day today. So I mean, what better time to just have a bit of a chat about, have a bit of a ramble about, like, can you hear the birds outside? That's not bad background noise, is it? I think you guys probably like hearing the birds outside. Probably makes it more relaxing to listen to this. You know, one thing I've just to go off on a little tangent. Actually, one thing I've realized through doing YouTube. Well, I didn't just realize this through doing YouTube. I think I knew this before, but like, I tend to like. I do tend to. I don't speak very well. Is one thing that I've realized even more since doing YouTube, but I kind of knew before. Like, listening to me speak is like just listening to someone go like you know like you know like you know like and I don't know, like I wouldn't blame you guys for kind of finding that a bit annoying, but hopefully some people enjoy hearing me speak as well. I don't know. I think like, you know, I think like speaking in a very staggered way and saying and humming and hawing and stuff, and taking a long time to get your sentences out. That's like a symptom of autism spectrum disorder, which that's yeah, I'm on the autism spectrum myself. Yeah, I do have high functioning autism. So I mean, I'm not trying to make you feel bad if you, I mean, if me speaking so badly, um, like does actually put you off watching this, then like, I'm not telling you to stay. I'm not trying to like guilt trip you into staying here or anything. No, nothing like that. I'm just basically, I don't know. Well, it's a topic of conversation, isn't it? Rambling on. Yeah, but anyway, so I'm gonna talk about this picture that I'm drawing a little bit. Yeah, right. Okay, so this is just. I mean, this is a bit of a weird picture for me. Hang on, I'm just gonna see that this mic's still recording. Every now and then, I'm just gonna check that the mic's still recording. This is a bit of a weird picture for me because I don't usually draw abstract stuff that much. I mean, I have a little bit, and I do enjoy doing it. But I don't know. I'm kind of a bit. I sometimes don't really. Drawing abstract stuff's quite hard, isn't it? Because I mean, it's in some ways it's easier than drawing stuff that's representative of life, but in other ways it's harder because you kind of don't really know. There's no sort of rules to it, which is good, but also like bad at the same time. So like there's nothing to measure yourself against, sort of. Do you know what I mean? But I did enjoy drawing this picture. When I tend to draw abstract stuff, I like sort of doing abstract stuff like this, where I'm just like. I mean, the thing with this picture here is this was just literally like. I mean, right. I get a little bit of sort of. I think I get a very minor case of like seasonal affective disorder, which is basically. It's something that's. If you're listening to this in like. I mean, there might be people listening to this all over the world, right? So. I don't know if all of you will actually know what seasonal affective disorder is, because I think it's specifically, seasonal affective disorder is specifically something that affects people that live in places that have seasons. So if you're listening to this from somewhere where it's like just like summer all year long, then like you won't know what the hell seasonal affective disorder is, because you'll probably have never encountered it. But basically, anyone who lives in the UK will know what I'm talking about, or like anywhere in like Northern Europe, or probably a lot of places in like North America as well, like places further north. I don't know. But basically, in the UK, at the sort of the peak of like December, around the sort of the winter solstice, at around the 22nd of December, I think it is, which the 22nd of December, if you live above the equator, is the longest day of the year. Or is it the 22nd? It might be the 21st actually. Well, the 21st or the 22nd anyway, right? I mean, they're only a day apart, so it'll only be like a matter of minutes or something. But yeah, the 21st or 22nd of December is like the shortest day of the year. And I think in the summer it's like July, I think. Is it July? The 22nd of July, or is it the 22nd of June? God, I should know this. But anyway, what happens is, because because of the Earth's rotation, and the fact that the sun is over the south of the world during the winter months. Why am I giving you a science lesson? You probably already know all this stuff. But anyway, like, yeah, so if you're living in the north, basically, during the winter months, you're going to have shorter days because the sun's going to go down much sooner. And in the United Kingdom, at the peak of December, it gets dark at like 3:30 in the afternoon. Particularly because I mean, this might also be, I'm like in the northeast of England as well, so I'm a little bit further up. So it's probably even more pronounced like here, but where I live, it gets dark at like 3:30 in the afternoon at like the peak of December. And basically what that means is there's less daylight, you know. Which is what seasonal affective disorder is basically like a lot of things that like affect your mood are like just like really basic things, like how much sunlight you're exposed to and stuff, how much, you know, like sunlight tends to make people happy, and not much sunlight tends to make people less happy. So basically, seasonal affective disorder is something that like pretty much every single human like has to a certain extent, although some people have it more and some people have it less. In fact, I think every single human has it. I don't know, maybe there's some like abnormal people who are just like not even bothered about how much sunlight they get or whatever, I don't know. But I do tend to get a little bit of seasonal affective disorder. I do tend to, just at the very height of December, I do tend to kind of be a little bit fed up, like a lot more than I would be in the summer, I think. Although, you know, my emotions do go up and down throughout the year as well, obviously. But yeah, I think in December I do tend to have a tendency to be a little bit more fed up. So what I did, usually I make myself draw like every day, or do some sort of artwork, or if I'm not drawing, I'll be doing kind of like, you know, other things like relating to creativity, like you know, making these YouTube videos, or I don't know, doing stuff on my website and stuff like that. I'm not great at multitasking though, you know. Some people are very good at like splitting their days up into little segments, or they'll, you know, if someone's like a creative person on YouTube, for example, like a lot of people are very good at sort of doing like, okay, so I draw for a little bit at this point, and then I'm gonna, you know, spend like an hour doing YouTube stuff or whatever. I'm not really like that. I tend to like draw solidly for a few days and then like edit solidly for a few days. That's kind of tends to be more the way I tend to do things. I don't tend to kind of, you know, break my day up into little bits very well. So, but that's okay, because I still get a fair amount done. I mean, obviously, you're always gonna be worrying in case you're not getting enough done and stuff. But I mean, if I'm gonna be fair to myself, I think I do get a fair amount done. But sort of like in kind of December, I mean, right, so usually like doing it right. Okay, so in kind of November, December sort of time, right? What I decided to do was more like oil painting. I decided to kind of mess around with oil painting a bit more. Oil painting is something that's really, really new to me. I've not really done it that much. most of my drawing up until now has been in oil pastel or alcohol markers. Um, so oil painting is something that's quite new to me. Um, but during kind of like November, December is when I've kind of been spending a lot of time doing oil painting. Um, and you know, I quite like oil painting. I think there's a lot of things that I would say are like transferable between oil pastel and oil painting. Particularly if you use the oil paint straight out of the tube, which I've realized is how I like to use oil paints. I like to just use them straight out of the tube. And the reason why I like to use them straight out of the tube is because oil paints behave more like oil pastel if you use them straight out of the tube. And like because oil paint sorry, I can't speak. Because oil pastel is like something that I've got a lot of experience using, I think like making oil paint behave more like oil pastel is like a really good thing. I like to be able to blend the oil paints together on the canvas and things like that. It kind of frustrates me having to like mix every single color off the canvas on a palette. I like to just basically get near. I like to get close to the color that I want, and then sort of, if I want to like lighten it, I like to just get some white and just kind of just dab it on, and then get a dry brush and kind of blend them in. You know, I like doing that kind of thing. So that kind of thing is easier to do if you just use the oil paint straight from the tube. And it's harder to do if it's very hard to do if you put linseed oil into it. And it's also fairly hard to do if you've got turpentine in it as well. So yeah, I've discovered that the way I like to paint is I like to I mean I do a little bit of turpentine as a bottom layer. I try and just kind of, you know, I usually have like some sort of a sketch on the canvas. I usually don't just start painting straight off and just sketch with the oil paint. I don't really like doing that. So I like to I usually have like some sort of a picture on the canvas. And then I'll start kind of just getting like I'll basically just mix up like two tones of each. I'll get like basically every single color that I want for the picture mixed up on my canvas. Not on my canvas, sorry, on my palette. Then I'll sort of alter them a little bit more so that I've got like two different values of every single color that I want to use. And then I'll just get like a shitload of turpentine and make it like really watery and watercolory. And I'll just kind of basically roughly kind of blotch in all of the colors I'll kind of roughly blotch in all of the colors that I'm using in the picture, with just like two shades of each color, you know, and then I'll wait for that to dry, which takes that's a pretty quick process because, you know, it's got a lot of turpentine in it, so it tends to dry really quick. And then I'll just start painting straight from the tube. I'll start kind of going over everything with like just paint straight from the tube, and I'll kind of get more precise with the colors, and I'll blend them together and stuff, like on the canvas with a dry brush. one thing that I've realised you really have to do when you're doing that is um, dry your brush as you're blending. Like have like a piece of kitchen roll or something there. And when you when you're blending your colours together, make sure that you just do a little bit of blending. Then you kind of rub off any paint that you've picked up while you're blending. Rub that off on the kitchen roll, and then do it again, and then just keep on keep on kind of rubbing the excess paint off on the kitchen roll as you go on. Because that means that you're not like picking up paint from the canvas and like moving it around to places you don't want it to be. Basically, it's a hard thing to get right, but I've been enjoying doing it. But okay, so the problem is, right, I guess like the thing about doing like something new like oil painting, I'm still very much in the experimental phase. So I would still say I'm kind of learning to do it. Which means in the last 2 months, November, December, I haven't really got anything finished. I got like one little kind of improvised oil painting finished, but I haven't really got anything finished, which for me is bad because it tends to motivate me to keep going when I get things finished, you know. So yeah, that wasn't. I mean, obviously, I know on a logical level, like, well, yeah. I mean, you're just starting this, you know what I mean. So it's all right. You don't have to be getting things finished and having like completed projects and all that kind of thing, you know, because you're just starting out. You're just messing around. But like on an emotional level, I'm kind of on a subconscious level, I'm kind of not okay with that. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather be getting things finished. Like when I'm working in other mediums, like when I've been working in oil pastels or alcohol markers, I tend to get things finished quite quick, and I tend to kind of concentrate on smaller projects and get them finished more often rather than spending a lot of time on big projects that are going to take us a very long time. And I think that's the way to be, really. I mean, I think, well, like, especially when you're starting out, like I'm still quite new to this whole thing in general. I've only really been taking art like seriously and doing it every day for about a year. So well, just over a year. It was in October 2019 when I first started kind of like taking it really seriously. But anyway, I'm not going to go in, I'm not going to give you my whole story about how I got into art and stuff. But yeah, okay, so not getting that stuff finished, combined with the sort of seasonal affective disorder, did sort of start to make us feel a little bit fed up. Also, another thing that's been making us feel a bit fed up is I've just realised recently, I turned 30 last January, so I'm about to turn 31, and turning 30 didn't really bother us, to be honest, because back in January last year, I was in a fairly happy place, actually, to be honest. I felt like I had a lot of good friends, a good social life and that, and I was going out to see friends a lot and stuff, and that kind of thing. So I didn't have the kind of freak out that people have when they turn a round number. You know how like usually people have like a freak out when they hit a round number. They're usually like, oh God, oh I can't believe I'm a decade older. Like oh Christ, oh what am I gonna do or whatever. I didn't have that freak out when I turned 30 because I had loads of friends, so who gives a shit, But okay, so anyway, at the end of September this year, right, I had sort of I hadn't had a haircut for the whole of the pandemic, you know. And like my hair was like proper long as anything. And like I don't know, it was pretty scraggly and crazy. Like, to be honest, like I mean, I had long hair when I was young. Between the ages of like 14 and 22, I had long hair, so I'm no stranger to long hair. But and I quite like long hair, but I was getting a bit sick of it, if I'm honest. Like, so I had quite long hair, and I was getting a bit sick of it, so I just decided to like just grab a shaver and just like, not like a close shaver, like an electric shaver, like the type you use in a barber. I got one of them, and I just shaved off all my hair, and I was just like, doesn't matter, it'll grow back, it'll grow back. Anyway, I didn't realize when I first did it. Some of you know what's coming here, actually. Some of you might even know what's coming here. I didn't realize when I first did it, but I started to realize as it grew back. So when it got to kind of November time or something, that actually it wasn't all grown back. Like, there was a significant amount of it that wasn't grown back, like towards the front and the side. And yeah, basically I've realized that like I'm receding now. Like, I'm starting to go bald, and like, I don't know, like, I mean, I guess that's all right. I mean, like, it's pretty common. I think it pretty much happens to every guy eventually, but I don't know. I am quite vain, if I'm perfectly honest. Like, I am pretty vain. So that kind of bothered us a bit. And it's not like crazy yet. I mean, it's not like a crazy amount that's gone, but like, I don't know. I wish it had happened later. You know what I mean? Like my dad didn't start going bald until he was in his 60s, and I think, like, to be honest, if you go bald when you're in your 60s, it's like, I don't even think you give a shit, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, whatever. I'm in my 60s already, who cares? But going bald when you're 30 is like, damn, my 20s are over, you know what I mean? It's like, it's made us have that kind of round number freak out a little bit that I didn't have when I first turned 30. But anyway, I'm not going to go into that too deep, because it's not just the hair, it's kind of like, it's the fact that I don't know, like something like that starts to make you question your whole life, you know what I mean? It starts to make you question, like, like where am I in life, you know what I mean? Like, the 15-year-old me who thought that I was going to like achieve so much in my 20s and all that kind of shit would probably be like really pissed off at it. But nah, you haven't got to think of all that stuff, man, I'm kind of getting into like the idea of like zen and like mindfulness and all that kind of thing recently. So what I think I need to be doing is, if I feel like gloomy or whatever, I think what they say is like, you've got to just kind of feel those emotions, but don't try and explain them all with thoughts, like, because your thoughts are that's kind of you trying to like escape from your emotions when you're kind of trying to contextualize everything in your brain, And basically, mindfulness is like it's about getting away from that idea that you're like at the center of your own personal narrative kind of thing. Like I think mindfulness is like about like not trying to narrativize your own life, if narrativize is even a word, but you know what I mean. Like don't kind of think of yourself as like the main character in your own film or whatever, because that kind of thing, it just means that you don't want to be like living life as a script writer for your own life. You know what I mean? You're not like you don't have to like explain everything that happens or everything that you do in this kind of like storybook type way. You know what I mean? Sometimes you should just kind of sit back and just live and just kind of like just experience things, and don't even like try and think about like what kind of a person you are or anything like that. Like, because none of that stuff's even real, you know what I mean? Like I guess one way of thinking of it is like, okay, so if you imagine approaching yourself when you were like 15 years old, right? And like imagine asking the 15-year-old version of you, like, okay, what kind of a person are you? You know, if you kind of ask the 15-year-old version of yourself to like describe who that 15-year-old person was as a person. Here's the question, right? Would that 15-year-old version of you, knowing what you know now about yourself and about who you were as a 15-year-old, would that pardon me, sorry, I had to cough there. Would that 15-year-old version of you give like an accurate description of who you were at that age? Like, was the person who you thought you were when you were 15, is that who you really were when you were 15? And like, I'm guessing probably the majority of you are probably thinking like, no, probably no, not definitely not. You know what I mean? Like, I think when I was 15, the person I thought I was probably very different to who I actually was when I was 15. You know, in a lot of ways. I mean, I was probably right about some things, but probably wrong about a lot of other stuff. So then, if you take that into consideration, like how you are now, right? Whatever age you are when you're listening to this, right? Like, is it not kind of likely that the person you think you are now, if you were to kind of try and like explain to someone who you are, as if you're like, you know, like I said, as if you're the script writer for your own life, you know, and you're kind of like trying to describe your character, you know, as if you're doing like an elevator pitch and like to like some producer or something, right? Like, I mean, it's likely that that's not going to be who you actually are, you know. So in that, like, there's some people who might hear that and actually find it a bit scary and unsettling. Like, I think some people might hear that and they might be like, oh, that's a bit unnerving, you know, especially if you've never encountered this type of thinking before. Like, if you've never like explored like mindfulness or anything, you might kind of be like, oh God, what? Like, you know, and it might make you, I don't know, like maybe some unsettling things about yourself that you sort of don't want to believe about yourself. Maybe some of those things might, you know, it might make you believe some of those things. And like, I want to make it clear that like I'm not trying to say that like this means that like all of the like, I guess what Carl Jung described as the shadow. I'm not trying to say that means that like the shadow is like who you really are or something like that. That's definitely not what I'm saying here. So like, don't get too freaked out. This doesn't mean that you're like secretly a bad person or anything like that. You know what I mean? So don't think like that. Because what it can also be is it can also be quite a liberating thing to kind of to realize that you're not, that no matter how much you try and describe yourself as a person, no matter what person you convince yourself that you are, you will never be that person, you know? And the way I just phrase that, it makes it sound negative, but it really isn't. Like, it's kind of like, because if you think about it, if you're not the person who you try and describe yourself as in your kind of personal narrative, you know, then what that does is that alleviates you of the burden of having to describe yourself. That alleviates you of something that I think exhausts all of us. Like, all of us get exhausted by the idea of having to kind of narrativize everything that happens to it, and always have to kind of spin it in a way that, having to kind of spin the narrative in a way that we feel comfortable with every time. And like, I mean, I guess the reason why this can be a bit of a relief, this thought, is that like, you don't have to, you know, you don't have to be like thinking about your life in that way. You don't have to be like justifying everything to yourself that happens, and justifying everything that you do to yourself. I mean, obviously, you know, try not, you know, don't kind of use this as an excuse to go around hurting people. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. But like, you can just kind of live your life, you know what I mean, and just appreciate your surroundings, you know? I mean, when was the last time you just sat and just kind of appreciated your surroundings, you know, as a, not as this character that you've created for yourself, you know, not as the person who you, the kind of script writer version of you, the narrator, the person who kind of explains your life to yourself and to, you know, other people who you talk to in conversations and things. That narrator is actually sometimes kind of getting in between you and the world around you. Sometimes when you just look at the world around you and you allow yourself to look at it without the narrator talking all the time, without the narrator saying like, you see, this is me, this is this character that I am, like sitting in this specific place, and this place where I am now, this fits into my life story in the following way, and blah blah blah, you know, like, okay, so I mean, that narrator is probably still there. I say he, it could be she. That narrator's probably still there right now, but you kind of don't have to like try really hard to block out that narrator. You know what I mean? Like, because that narrator's always going to be there. But basically, like, if you at least have kind of like an understanding that narrator isn't necessarily a part of you, or doesn't have to be a part of you, you can kind of look at the world as it is around you right now. Like, just whatever space you're in right now, you're kind of sitting there You know, I mean, what can you see around you? You know what I mean? And you can probably see things around you, and they don't have to be part of a narrative. They can just be stuff that you're looking at. In the same way that, like, a frog, you know, if a frog's hopping around, like, how does a frog see the world around it? You know, is the frog always trying to describe things and kind of, or is the frog just kind of living, you know? And as for that narrator, it doesn't mean that you have to completely put aside that narrator, because I don't think you can. I don't think you can put aside that narrator, but every now and then you can kind of look at the narrator as if the narrator is like another object in the space that you're in. So, like, for example, in the room that I'm in now, I'm in like a shed, okay? But like, it doesn't have to be a shed. Like, it can just be like, you know, a space. And there's various objects around me, and maybe the narrator who kind of describes my life and describes who I am and stuff, maybe that thing is just another object in this room, or another object in maybe my brain is just a kind of and maybe your brain is just like a room filled with objects, you know, and maybe like deep inside that room there is some sort of a conscious energy there, but that conscious energy isn't necessarily linked to all the other stuff that's in the room of your brain, you know. So sometimes you can just kind of observe, just look at the things that are inside your brain like they're just objects, you know. And that's something that, like, I think it's worth kind of thinking like that sometimes, because it gives you a break, you know. It gives you a break from the stuff that you usually concern yourself with in everyday life, you know. You know, and part of it is just noticing the actual physical sensations that you can feel as well, you know. Like, I mean, I mentioned before that I mean, this is essentially, hang on, I'm going off topic here. Yeah, I mentioned before, what did I mention before? You know, I'm putting myself in a bit of a meditative state, actually, like when I'm even having this conversation, because this is essentially what meditating is. And you don't have to be like sitting with your legs crossed, or like, you know, sitting completely silent when you're meditating. You can meditate when you're doing anything. You can literally just be in a specific place, just you know, doing things and stuff. I think I've been, as I was saying before, I've been in a meditative state before when I've been drawn, even like I've just kind of mindfully drawn, like just holding my drawing implement and just kind of putting marks on the paper and just kind of watching that, you know, watching and feeling how it feels to kind of the kind of the tension in your kind of hand as you put a mark on whatever surface you're drawing on or painting on or whatever you're doing, or if you're not, maybe you're not drawing, maybe you're doing something else, I don't know. Of course, if you're doing something that's like, I don't know, particularly difficult and needs a lot of brain power, obviously it's hard to kind of do this, you know. But I think if you're doing something that needs a lot of brain power, then you're kind of in a mindful state anyway. So if you're kind of in like for example, just to use the drawing example again, if you're in a problem solving section of your drawing, where you've found something that's kind of not going right or something, that's obviously you're probably gonna go into a mindful state naturally, just to solve that issue. But anyway, coming back out of the mindfulness for now, and let's just I'm just gonna, well, I mean, obviously I'm not telling you to come out of the mindfulness if you're in the mindfulness now. By the way, I never actually intended, it wasn't like part of my intention when I started recording this to put people into a mindful state. To be honest, I'm not an expert in that kind of thing. I've literally just watched some YouTube videos about it. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, I would say pursue it with someone else. Don't just, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, yeah, but it wasn't my intention to kind of try and put people in that kind of mindset when I started recording this. It's just kind of happened naturally because I was talking about all of that kind of stuff that that you think about and stuff and stuff that kind of troubles you in your life and stuff, and then I was just thinking of I guess suggesting one way that you can kind of cope with that, sometimes one way that I tend to do that sometimes. I'm not always that fantastic at it, but anyway, what I was going to try and talk about actually was why I decided to draw this abstract drawing that you can see in this video right now. But I've went off on so many tangents, you see, before I managed to get there. But that's okay, because I think some of these tangents have been good. I hope that some of these tangents have been good. I hope that you've enjoyed some of the tangents. Leave a comment below to leave a comment below to try and to explain to me which was your favourite tangent out of all of the tangents that I've gone on in this video. If you want to, I mean, I don't know, maybe you could mindfully leave a comment, concentrate on the feeling of the keys under your fingers on the keyboard when you I don't know if it's possible to mindfully leave a comment on it. It's so it's like the opposite of mindfulness, like engaging in social media, like you need to kind of have your kind of imagination and your consciousness of the world outside of the room that you're in. So you need to have that switched on so much to engage in the kind of social media world, which is possibly another reason why social media is unhealthy. It's kind of a bit of a cliche to go on about how unhealthy social media is, but that's possibly an even one more thing to add to the long list of things. But isn't social media great in other ways though? Because it means that you can watch videos like this and hear me rambling on about stuff, and there's other things on YouTube as well. I'm a big fan of YouTube, which is probably why I've ended up having my own channel and stuff and trying to kind of promote my artwork or whatever the hell I'm doing with this channel. Is probably one of the reasons why I've ended up doing that, is because I think I understand YouTube as an audience member. I still don't really understand it as a creator, because that's an ongoing process, obviously, but as an audience member, I do have an understanding of YouTube, which is a good start. It's a good start to I'm having that annoying thing where where you cough, right? When you try and cough, but then every time you cough you kind of hiccup halfway through your cough, so you can never really quite clear your throat because you kind of just hiccuping every time. I think it's because of that egg sandwich and the cup of tea combined with talking through has maybe give us a little bit of hiccups, not major hiccups, but maybe a tiny bit, not enough to be going all the time when I'm talking, but enough to enough to stop us from being able to cough successfully without hiccuping halfway through my cough, which stops us from being able to clear my throat, which is kind of annoying. But what the hell was I talking about anyway? This is a tangent from the. What I'm on now is a tangent from the discussion of tangents. So I went off on a tangent to say that I'd been on another tangent, and I mean what? Sorry, what? No, I went on a tangent to to talk about the fact that I often go off on tangents when I'm talking, and I ended up going on like a few tangents from the tangent where I was explaining the fact that I go off on tangents. So anyway, to go back to the subject that I was actually talking about. So this abstract picture, anyway. So this is for me, this is a good thing to do when you're in a mood where you don't really feel as if the creativity is something you want to do, when you're kind of a bit like, oh god, I can't be bothered. This drawing here is one of those. This was a very good activity to break up that kind of that mindset, and don't get me wrong, I can hear a lot of you saying, like, in your own heads here. Obviously I'm not being mindful at the minute because imagining what other people are thinking when they're listening to you isn't really particularly mindful. So we've left the mindful thing aside for a second. We may go back to the mindful state in the future, but right now, I'm kind of leaving that aside. But you don't have to if you don't want to. But what the hell am I talking about? God, I'm going off on more tangents. Oh yeah, right. Okay, the thing that I can hear you, like some of you saying in your brains right now is oh, like you have to make art even when you don't feel like it sometimes. And yes, I know that. I do that. I'm always making art when I don't feel like making art. Don't worry. Don't worry, I do that. But sometimes you have less energy to do that than you do at other times, and during the Christmas time and during that kind of that gap between Christmas and New Year's was kind of one of those. I mean, if I'm honest, I did give myself some time off. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have the sort of the gap in between Christmas and New Year to kind of just sit and do whatever. I've started watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is cool because that used to be on the telly when I was a kid, and I used to watch it when I was a kid, but I haven't watched it since then, so it's pretty cool to revisit it. But anyway, yeah, so this was something I did. I think this was like the night before, the day before New Year's Eve, like the night before, and it was quite late at night when I was doing this, and I had like some podcast type thing on YouTube at the time, people talking about politics, which is something that I've tried to avoid on this channel. I've tried to kind of avoid ever going into political subjects, but I am a bit conflicted about that because I am somebody, if I'm perfectly honest, I am somebody who thinks a lot about politics. I spend a lot of my time thinking about politics, but my political views don't really fit into a kind of a very precise kind of partisan kind of way of I don't think the kind of the partisan sort of way of understanding politics really explains my personal stance, and it probably doesn't explain many people's personal political stances, to be honest. But we do tend to stereotype people a lot as humans, don't we? And we tend to think like, oh well, I know what this person's view about this one thing is, so therefore, I know what their view is about everything because, yeah, and there is some people who do kind of think about politics in that way. And maybe I do to a certain extent, I don't know, but I think my views are kind of a bit too hard to explain in simple terms, which is why I've kind of avoided it, because I would probably have to sit here for a whole hour just to give you kind of an like an idea of what I believe politically, because like everything that you basically I don't even think that the kind of the usual narrative of politics is a kind of a reliable way to actually understand political issues. So I'm not going to go into politics. But I will give you like a tiny little hint at what kind of political view I have. I think the type of political thought that I would say I fit most closely with is a type of political ideology which is referred to as syndicalism. So if any of you have heard of syndicalism, then you will kind of you'll kind of maybe get close to what I kind of believe in, but if not, you can look that up on Wikipedia. Maybe I don't know whether the Wikipedia article on syndicalism is really is that good. I don't know, but I'm kind of basically a syndicalist, except I don't like to put an ism against myself because that may change. I might kind of I might be like there may be a kind of issue that crops up in the future where I take a view on it which is not very syndicalist, but the kind of syndicalist way of thinking of politics tends to be what I tend to gravitate towards. And if you haven't heard of syndicalism, then that's precisely the issue that I was talking about before. You know what I mean? It's very hard to explain your political beliefs when they're quite far outside of what people have even heard of. So I'm not going to talk about politics other than to give you a little hint there, if you are interested enough to learn more about that. But what the hell? How have I managed to go off on this big tangent like this? Yes. Oh, right. Because I think I was saying I was listening to a political podcast when I was drawing. That's not something I usually do when I draw. I tend to avoid politics when I'm drawing because I have realized that politics does tend to put me off the artwork that I'm making. Sometimes because it's a very it's a subject that kind of gets you. Right. What the hell am I talking about? So yeah, so that doesn't tend to be something that I do very often. Is watch political things when I'm drawing. Usually when I'm drawing, I've got either like a podcast about art or something like that on, or an audio book, or like a live performance of some jazz. I like jazz, and I like jazz specifically when I'm working as well. Like I think there's nothing better than just sitting and drawing a picture whilst listening to some jazz. You know what I mean? Like and I like the kind of jazz that the kind of how there's a lot of people out there who say that they don't like jazz. They say like, oh, I hate jazz or whatever. I like the type of jazz that I like is probably the type of jazz that they hate the most. Like I do tend to like very kind of contemporary kind of blippy boopy blip bap type jazz. Very very intense kind of constantly changing kind of time, like loose intense time feel. um Musicians who are constantly toying with the harmony, toying with with just, and sometimes just kind of just jumping out of the kind of jumping in and out of conventional harmony, and they're sort of meandering all over the place, doing a lot of creative, interesting things. I just love it. I love it. I really do. Um, but yeah, a lot of people don't. um, and that's usually what I've got on when I'm drawing. But it wasn't what I had on when I was drawing this thing that you can see on the screen right now. Because this thing that I'm drawing on the screen right now, which I keep on meaning to talk about more, but I keep on getting distracted talking about other things. This thing that I'm drawing on the screen now is something that I was just basically trying to do a project that felt like I wasn't even doing a project, trying to do a drawing that kind of felt like I wasn't even drawing, you know what I mean? That was the idea behind this. I just wanted to do something that was just a pure blast of creative energy without any kind of conscious thought behind it, something that was just as instinctual as just kind of messing around, rolling a ball around on a table, a small bouncy rubber ball or something, just kind of rolling that back and forth on a table from one hand to the other, that kind of feeling you get when you just kind of messing, that's such a great feeling, isn't it? Like I love doing things like that so much, and I also like making things. I like drawing pictures and things, but this was supposed to be like a kind of a happy point between the two, because obviously sometimes when you're drawing pictures you can just get way too like, I don't know, conscious, should we say? You can get way too conscious, to go back to what I was talking about the whole mindfulness thing. But not even that, but just, get too obsessed with the end result, etc., 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 and you're not just enjoying doing the thing that you're doing just for the sake of doing it. And that's okay. I mean, because to be honest, like, I like drawing things. I like drawing things that I've kind of carefully worked out, and sort of, I tend to do that quite a lot. But I think every now and then you just need to do something just for the sake of it, and just really just get into it. And that's what I was doing here. I was just, and you can tell by the medium that I've chose as well to work in, oil pastels. I just think oil pastels are great. I just love oil pastels so much. Like I worked in oil pastels for forever. Like basically, like I think for about 9 months. I think like towards the end of 2019, up until like right the end of June 2020. From like October 2019 up until June, the end of June in 2020, I think I was just basically working on oil pastels exclusively. Because I like using them because they're just they're so simple, and they're so like, you just pick them up and then you just, color just comes off them. You know what I mean? So this picture was just me getting down into something where I was just, I was in my comfort zone when it came to the medium, and I was just making for the sake of making, and it was good, and I think I need to do this more often. I need to kind of do abstract stuff more often, because it's good. It feels nice to just sit and do things, abstract. One of the things that, the only thing that I don't tend to like about my own abstract pictures is like, I feel like a lot of my abstract pictures are quite flat. I don't like the flatness of it, because I think one of the things that I really like in drawing usually is I really, really enjoy the depth. I enjoy the kind of the perspective and the fact that there's some things in the background and some things in the foreground. The fact that it's a kind of flat surface that you're drawing on, obviously, but that you can create three-dimensional space on that drawing. You know what I mean? There's something really, really beautiful about that. I think like Billy Childish, the artist Billy Childish, said something in a manifesto that he wrote for the Stuckist movement, which the Stuckists are kind of a bit. That was a weird thing, but there's some good artists in that, and I think Billy Childish was one of the interesting ones out of that movement, and like in one of the manifestos he wrote for that, he said that one of the reasons why he loved painting so much was because painting is a world within a world. Like when you look at a painting, you're not looking at the object that you're actually looking at, if you know what I mean. You aren't looking at, like, let's say if it's oil on canvas, you're not looking at some paint on a surface. You're looking at the picture creates a space, which is really, it's just, isn't that just so cool? Like the fact that you don't see like a flat surface, you see the world of that painting. You know what I mean? Like, that's just really cool, isn't it? Like, and that's one of the things I really like about art. And I think that's something that I like about abstract art as well. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of abstract art as a viewer, as an appreciator of art. I like abstract art a lot. I just don't make it myself very much. And And I think that whole world within a world thing, it exists with abstract art as well, because I think sometimes, I mean, I have a lot of synesthesia, which is, synesthesia is that thing where, you know, where you see, where you kind of, your senses kind of meld together a little bit, and you kind of tend to see abstract forms when you hear sound and stuff. I'm just going to put a blanket around this because it's like the dead of winter and I'm sitting in a shed. I mean, this shed does actually have electricity. Well, it's not really a shed, to be honest. It's more like it's like a summer house. You know, like a little wooden building that you kind of sit in your garden. It's not like a shed. It's not like where you store things. But it's like a shed because it's made out of wood, you know. But it does have electricity in it, which is kind of cool. And because it has electricity in it, it has a little radiator. It has a little oil radiator. There's a little oil radiator in here. And I have that turned on right now, so it's not absolutely freezing in here. But it is the dead of winter. It is like I said, it's the 2nd of January right now, and it has actually been snowing outside. It's not deep snow, it's like a very light scattering of snow, but it has been snowing. So just to kind of paint you a picture of where I am, I'm sitting in a little wooden hut looking out of the windows, and I can see like just white all over the place, but with like other colours coming through it. So there's kind of like, there's a lawn there, and the lawn is like a mixture of green and white, because there's a thin scattering of snow, but the snow is less deep than the grass. The grass is longer than the depth of the snow, so the grass is kind of poking up through the snow, so you can still see most of the grass. And that's what I'm looking at. So it is a very cold day. And I have got a radiator on in here, but at the same time it's the dead of winter and it's snowing outside, and the building that I'm sitting in is made out of wood, so it's not the warmest thing in the world even with the radiator, but it's not too bad. But I have decided that I'm going to wrap a blanket around myself right now, and that's what I've just done. So now I'm sitting here with a blanket around me, and yes, but I was talking about art, wasn't I? Yeah. So yeah, one of the things I like about art is that it's a world within a world. So I like that three-dimensionality. And well, not necessarily three-dimensionality. I think that's the wrong way to phrase it, because I think, you know, if you, I don't know, you can make something three-dimensional without giving it perspective. You know what I mean? Like, you know, for example, like if you see like a fancy magazine with like embossed writing on it, where like the writing kind of goes in, you know, it's embossed into the magazine a little bit. Or if, for example, maybe it comes out of the magazine a little bit, or something like that. That's an example of three-dimensionality without perspective. And I think this drawing that I'm doing here, there is some three-dimensionality in it, because I did try to the kind of the shapes that I was drawing, I did try to kind of make them a bit more 3D, as you could see with the fact that I've lit them a little bit. I've sort of defined the volume of those shapes a little bit by putting, you know, some blending in some black and white there to kind of make them stick out a little bit. But so it's not two-dimensional, it is three-dimensional, which is good. But it's still happening on one plane, so it may be like kind of a bit three-dimensional, but it's still just happening on one plane. It's not like, there's not things happening in the background and things happening in the foreground. So one thing that I would like to do, I think, if I'm gonna do more abstract art, is I would like to find a way of kind of doing abstract art with depth, but without it just being like, I don't know, predictable shapes. I don't want to just draw like spheres floating in space or whatever. Although I might do that. I don't know. But yeah, I do actually have an idea for future artworks, actually, of a way that I could kind of explore depth, explore three-dimensional space and perspective, whilst also exploring some of the kind of the fun of abstract shapes and forms and things like that. I do have an idea for something that I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna start doing that. Maybe not today, because I might be tired after I've recorded this, because I've been awake all night. But maybe tomorrow when I wake up, I think I might. I'm gonna start on that. And I'm not gonna talk about it before I do it, because that, that's, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to like commit myself to it. You know what I mean? Like, and what I mean by that is, well, no, it's not that I don't want to commit myself to it. It's just that, like, I think if I just tell everyone about it, then it kind of decreases the chance that I'll actually do it. That whole thing that people say. I do kind of believe that a little bit. I do think the more you kind of talk about things you want to do in the future, the more it's like you just, I don't know, you're kind of already getting the joy of having done it. I mean, that's the theory that people go by, isn't it? If you tell loads of people about what you're gonna do, there's kind of less reason to actually do it, because you're already kind of experiencing the joy of sharing your idea with people before you've actually done it, sort of thing. It's not a rule that I stick to religiously. There is times when I'll talk about stuff that I'm, that's upcoming with people. You know what I mean? Because obviously, I mean, particularly if it's something you're putting a lot of effort into, like a lot of the comics that I've wrote and stuff like that. Like in sort of July and August 2020, I wrote and drew like a 9-page comic for an anthology called the 9-Volt Anthology, and I spent 2 months just working pretty intensely on that. So obviously, during those 2 months, obviously I was going to be talking about the thing that I was doing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not so strictly into like not talking about the things that I've done before I do them, that I just end up like, just not talking to anyone at all about the thing that I'm spending most of my time doing when I'm actually doing it. That's kind of, I mean, because that's how crazy it would get if you were just like, if you were gonna commit to that fully. But when it's just an idea in my head, I'm gonna keep it as an idea in my head for now, and then I'm just gonna get up, and then I'm just gonna do it. And I think it's gonna be a project that I think I'm gonna like working on. Well, it's not really a project so much. It's an idea for like a lot of small pieces that I can do, and the beauty of it is if it becomes less exciting, I can just stop and move on to something else, because I'm not gonna like, it's not like something that's gonna take forever. It's something I can, do in a short amount of time. Because it's just ideas for individual pieces, individual pictures, So yeah. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna talk about some artists that I like, I think, because I was thinking, that might be. Hold on, what I'm gonna do is I'm just watching this video on a laptop screen at the minute, and I think I keep on turning away from the microphone because I've got the laptop in a different place to where the microphone is. So I think I might put the laptop down on the floor here, underneath the microphone, and then turn the screen up. Don't worry, the laptop's on a like like one of them cushion things with like a hard top over the cushion. It's on one of those things, so it's not like, I'm not putting the laptop straight down on the rug or anything, because I know that destroys laptops. If you don't know that already, by the way, anyone listening to this, if you put a laptop down on a carpet regularly, when it's switched on, the fans in the laptop will suck dust and fluff and things like that up into the computer, and it will slowly kill your computer. I know that because I had a laptop. My first ever laptop I got when I was 19, and I was constantly just leaving it on the rug, leaving it on the carpet when I wasn't using it. Like, if I was like browsing the internet and then I decided that I wanted a bowl of cereal or a cup of tea or something, I would just put the laptop down on the carpet, and then I would go into the kitchen and prepare my bowl of cereal or whatever. And the whole time I was doing that, my computer would just be on the carpet, just sucking up all the dust and all the fluff from the carpet up into the fan. And yeah, that laptop ended up it ended up breaking after a while. And then obviously, the laptop was a Christmas present from my parents, and I was broke when I was 19, so I didn't have money to get a new laptop. So yeah, so that was the end of that. So yeah, I don't make that mistake anymore. So how did I get on that subject? Oh yeah, because I was just saying I've moved this laptop so it's down on the floor underneath the microphone. What was I going to do again? Oh yeah, I was going to talk about some other artists that I like. I think I'm going to talk about Peter Doig a little bit. Have you guys ever heard of Peter Doig? You should look up Peter Doig. If you haven't heard of him. Yeah, this Christmas I got a book of Peter Doig pictures, and yeah, it's kind of cool. It's a very thick book with like a lot of pictures in it. It's the kind of book I like, because I like books with a lot of pictures. No, I love art books. That's the thing. Like big coffee table art books. Those are like, I collect those. I love them. Yeah, this year I got one by Peter Doig, and Peter Doig has kind of, he has a style which is like, it's representational, but it's very, I mean, it's kind of, I guess it's kind of in line with what you would call expressionist, but it's a bit boring just to kind of, just to talk about him in terms of like, oh, you know, his work looks a bit expressionist or whatever. It's more interesting to kind of try and explain without any of the kind of conventional words what his artwork is like. It's like dreamy. It's like dream world art, and it's like there's figures and landscapes and water and trees and humans and animals, and there's also paint blotches and texture and kind of strange colours and atmosphere. There's a lot of atmosphere. He's one of those artists that like I'm a filmmaker as well as like a picture type artist. I like making films, but I haven't made a film in a while because in 2019 I'll be perfectly honest, I wasn't doing much in 2019. I wasn't doing much of anything really. Well, no, that's not true actually. No, I was drumming a lot. I was playing the drums a lot in 2019. So the last film I made was in 2018. Because 2018 I was making films. I hadn't got like a very good creative routine yet. In 2018, I think. Well, I've been creative all my life, but I've never like for most of my life I haven't had a good creative routine. Like I haven't actually been working on creative work every single day. But I did still get a fair amount done. But I used to kind of basically work solidly on a project for a while and then not do anything for a bit and then feel bad about that and then work solidly for a bit and then it was that kind of process. It wasn't until the end of 2019 when I kind of developed a kind of very firm sort of daily routine of just doing something every day that was towards creativity. So why is that related to anything? What the hell was I talking about? Filmmaking. I didn't make a film in 2019, and I haven't made one in 2020. It's hard to make films, you know, when everyone's social distancing and stuff, so I haven't bothered. And also I'm drawing more and making visual art, so you know. In January and February, before this whole pandemic thing really kicked into gear, I applied for a film competition where if you won a place, you could kind of win a place on a kind of a kind of thing with like this production company where they would help you to work on the script a bit, and then it was like they would help you apply for funding for a 5-minute long project, and I was doing that a lot in sort of February and early March of 2020, like working with those people, and it was really exciting because every single film that I've made so far has been kind of like a no budget film, like an amateur film, like something that I've kind of just funded out of my pocket, and none of the people who've been working on it have been paid. They've just been like either like actors who are willing to do it for free, or just friends who have just begged to show up. And this project was going to be a project. I mean, it wasn't guaranteed that it would get funded, but I did, like I said, I did win one of the spaces on the thing that was helping you apply for funding. So it was more likely than it would be if I was just doing it under my own steam. There was a high possibility that it might have actually got funded. It might have actually, and like if that had went ahead, that would have been my first ever film with a budget. And I wasn't going to be getting paid for it because apparently it's standard on kind of short films like that, for the director and the producer to not take a wage for it. But like I was gonna have if it had got funded, it would have had like a paid crew and everything. So I would have been able to pay the crew and the actors, which is like really, really cool, because that means that like I wouldn't have had to just be begging my friends to kind of turn up and help out like I usually do when I make films. So I was quite excited about that. But just as we were kind of being paired up with producers, the whole COVID thing kicked into gear, like major, like full on, and that thing's just been, I mean, I don't know what the hell has happened with it. It's just kind of up in the air at the minute. So, but whatever, life goes on. It might be something I can go back to after this vaccine's been rolled out and stuff, or it might not be. But either way, whatever. It's just life, isn't it? But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say Peter Doig, the artist that I was talking about before. Peter Doig, he's an artist that I've been looking at his work on like Google Images a lot for like years and years. But I've only just got a book with his work in it this Christmas. But what I was going to say relating to filmmaking is like a lot of the time when I was coming up with ideas for films, one thing that I used to really enjoy doing in order to kind of spark my creativity when it came to films is I would kind of gather together some like pictures by artists, and I would like copy them into a document, and then I would just like look at each picture in the document, and I would write like a few words underneath it about sort of things that I could see in the picture and stuff, like just things that the picture made me think of, and just kind of almost kind of like imagining like a narrative for each picture individually. Well, sometimes imagining a narrative for it, but sometimes just kind of trying to define the emotion and things. And I would do that. I would just put together like just a random assortment of random pictures that are like by artists that I liked on a Word document, and I would do that for all of them. And then I would start to see like things that like maybe like emotions that like or kind of narratives that I was imagining for like more than one of the pictures, if you know what I mean. Because obviously the thing about art is you bring a lot of your own stuff to art, don't you? So however you're feeling or whatever, you're going to be bringing that to the picture, and you're going to be bringing your own past and your own, you know, the things that come to mind when you see certain images will probably come to mind when you see a few different images. So the interesting thing about that is there would often be like things that I would see in like loads of different images, similar themes, but you probably wouldn't even notice that unless you like tried to do one of these exercises. And then obviously if there was common themes across all of the different pictures, you could start to pull together like a narrative out of that, you know, like out of all these different pictures together, and like, or like a scenario or something like that, a situation, a character, you know, those kinds of things. And I think because Peter Doig has such a kind of a dream like style, I used to like trying to pull things out of his work, to kind of put in films. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's Peter Doig. I think I might talk about some other artists now. You know, my throat is kind of hurting. I don't think I'm used to talking out loud like this for these kind of extended periods of time like this. Like, oh, we're getting close to the end now. I just realised. I think there's only about 5 minutes left of this whole video. So I've been sitting here talking for like, yeah, this whole video is going to be like an hour and 50 minutes. Which, if you've actually got to the end of this video, there's still about 5 minutes left, but if you've got to the end of this video, then like, I love you. You know what I've seen some other YouTubers do when they have like a really long video like this. What I've seen them do is I've seen them like, or heard them do, should I say? I've heard them like say like, oh, comment this specific thing if you, you know, if you made it this far. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say something like that. So I'm looking out of the window right now, and what I can see, like about, I don't know, 2 meters away from the little hut that I'm sitting in, is I can see a bird bath filled with snow. So it's a bird bath filled to the brim with snow. So if you've actually listened to this whole like podcast or whatever the hell you'd call it, I don't know whether it's a podcast because there's a video with it, but you know what I mean, whatever it is. If you've listened to this whole video, if you've watched this whole video, then like put a comment below that says bird bath filled with snow. Just put the words bird bath filled with snow underneath the video, and then I'll know that you've watched the whole thing, and I'll be like, whoa, someone actually watched the whole thing. Well, to be honest, like, it'll probably show on my YouTube analytics anyway if people have watched the whole thing or not. I don't suppose many people will. Well, definitely not just after I've put it up, because I don't think these kind of videos are the kind of I've got a small channel, and these kind of videos aren't really the kind of videos that bring new people in. They tend to be the kind of videos that are just listened to by, I don't know, like people who are already fans of your channel and stuff. But I've got about 116 subscribers now. So I think among that 116 subscribers, there will possibly be a few people who actually like my channel enough to sort of put this video on when they're doing some work or something, or drawing or something, or just when they're chilling out or whatever, and might actually get to the end of it, which is, I mean, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so if you're one of those people, then comment bird bath filled with snow underneath, and I'll look down into the comments, and I'll be like, clicking the thumbs up button on the comment and stuff, and be like, yay, this person's watched the video, or whatever. I might even do like a reply comment where I say like, yay, this person's watched the video. Although it would be kind of weird if I just said that exact comment after I've just said it now, wouldn't it? But I tend to respond to. I mean, I've got a small channel, so like, I mean, whenever someone comments on my videos, I always see them, so I tend to respond to them, so I'll probably respond to your comment, unless like, I'm thinking like, hopefully this channel might get bigger over time, although I shouldn't really do it with that in mind. Oh, the video's just ended. Oh, I was just going on for like longer than 5 minutes. Oh crap, I'm gonna have to like, right, okay, there's gonna be like a freeze frame of the finished picture over here, so yeah, anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling, because what I was talking about there, it doesn't even matter, I don't think. Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say, if this channel gets really gets bigger in the future, and I'm like flooded with comments and stuff, and people go back and watch all my old videos and watch this video, and it's like flooded with comments, maybe then I probably won't respond to every single comment, but if you comment on this video like, close to when I actually publish it, then I probably will respond to it. But anyway, yeah, this is the end of the video. And I love you guys, and do I need to say like and subscribe and stuff? I think all the people who've watched a really long video like this will probably already be liked and subscribed. I don't know. If you're not, then yeah, do it, like and subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'll see you guys around, and thanks for watching. Hopefully I can actually upload this long video to YouTube. I don't have great internet. My upload speed isn't fantastic. So hopefully I will be able to get a big 2-hour long video up onto YouTube. Yeah, we'll see. That's going to be a challenge in itself. But yeah, okay. Anyway, see you around. Bye bye.